All right, this is where I left off. I'm just trying to make that little divot that kind of splits Bucky's nose in two. And so I started by creating this football shape with a rectangle and then rounding it out with the warp tool. And now I'm going to Control T and rotate it. In order to get things to rotate exactly on certain degrees, like 90 degrees, you can hold down Shift while you rotate and it will make it more exact. And then I am going to squeeze it in. And I'm going to hold both Option, because Option will make it scale towards the middle, and Shift, because Shift will make it distort. So it becomes kind of narrow like this, and a little bit softer than just a straight rectangle. And then I can extend it using Option and Shift on either side like so, and move it down. And I think that's how I want to split the nose. Hit return. All right. The eyes. This is the closest I could get, but Bucky's eyes are white and at an angle, right? So I want to use my ellipse tool. Make kind of an egg-shaped or a little narrower ellipse, maybe like that. Fill it with white. And then use Control T to tilt it. And maybe use a little bit of transform. So I'll right click within it and warp. Because his eyes are just a little weird looking. They're not just straight ovals. And they flow, it looks like they flow right into the nose. Now this is where my emoji underneath can be helpful. Even if I'm not matching it exactly. I can hit return, and then I can duplicate that white eye shape with Command J, and then I can hit Control T, and I can flip it horizontally, so it's an exact mirror image. And then I can hold down Shift while I move it over, and then try to place it in the same place, side to side. So this is now what I have. But I want to make those eyes behind the nose. So remember, these are just like cutouts of paper. So now I just move it down below the nose. Move it down. Oh, see, which one is it? Oh, because I forgot about the little divot on the nose. Got to keep that there. Move this down below the nose. There we go. And every time you select a shape layer, you're going to see that blue line, no matter where it is. So if you don't want to see that blue path line, you just have to click on your background or on a raster layer. And then you'll see what you really have. And if I zoom in, I see all those clean vectors. This is a good time to check your image size. So if you go to Image, Image Size, we want this to be at least 8 by 10 inches by 350. And right now mine is 10 by 9.61, so I'm good. So you can see we're making good use of these vector shapes. Okay, what about the insides of the eyes? Well, I already made this little slit for the nose. If I duplicate that, I already did a lot of work turning a rectangle into that. If I duplicate that and then move it, to do a better clicking on it, let's see. That's where auto select layer matters. This is my copy of it. There we go. Then I get this nice slit eye, but it's a little too narrow, so I do Control T. I'm going to hold down Shift and Option and then widen it out. Like so. I can even tilt it a little bit. Maybe grow it. Because emojis have to work from a distance as well. So I don't want that eyeball to disappear when I'm zoomed out. Even though the little nose divot might disappear, that's not as important as the eyeball or the pupil. So that's probably about as small as I can go with it. Now how do I match that side to side? I hit Command J to duplicate it. I hit Command T, not Command T, Control T. Haha. To transform it, and I say flip horizontally so I can match that tilt. And then I move it over. Try to place it same place. And I can kind of use these guidelines to show how far it needs to go over. Just a little bit more. Okay, next, I need ears. The prongs on the sunglasses are a pretty good indication of what that ear shape can be. And I might need to make my canvas a little bit wider to fit in the whole ear. So how could I do a shape like that? Well, let's start with an ellipse. And then let's color it to match the head. So I'm just going to steal that color right there. And then let's Control T and warp it. To get that little hook into it, like the corner of the sunglasses. So it's a little squared off at the tip. It's a little flattened. Like so. And it's like pushing dough or using silly putty. Just got to push and pull it in different directions. See what you can get away with. You can get some pretty complex shapes this way without having to add anchor points. I'm going to make them a little bit longer and maybe bump up a little bit at the edge here. So they go a little concave to convex. Like so. All right. Now with that shape, I'm going to move it, let's say, out at least that much. I think that's probably a good amount. To give myself a little bit more space, I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size. Image size changes your pixel grid. Canvas size adds on or subtracts from your pixel grid. So I always go to inches. If I'm at 10 inches, let's go to 12 inches wide. And then I'm going to grow it from the middle. And you see it will add equal amounts on both sides since I did it from the middle. Now I can take this and I can do Command J to duplicate it and then Control T, right click inside, flip it horizontally, move it over. And I can use my template to kind of see where to place it. Does it need to be exactly symmetrical? No. If you actually look at emoji designs, because Apple has their own, Google has their own, Firefox has their own, Chrome has their own, they're not all perfect. You know, they're handmade vectors kind of like this. And you can really, really stress about making them exactly symmetrical, but they just need to work. And that's the same for typefaces. A lot of typefaces, especially ones we might use from different designers, are not perfect. Okay, now I've got the black part of the ears. I need the pink part of the ear. So I'm going to steal this nose shape and duplicate it. Then move that duplicate, and transform it, Control T, because these are not rasters. These are vector shapes. So we can scale them to any dimension, and they will be clean. So we can make something tiny and turn it into something large. And I like that. I like how it kind of inserts into the head. But if I wanted to, I can move it behind the head as well. So it looked like this. And I think I like that a little bit more. Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I do. Because it looks more threatening. Bucky's a very threatening character. So to have the ears tilted back. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate that. Command J, same thing. Control T. Flip horizontally. Move it over. Try to place it in a similar way on the other side. And it's showing me that this head shape needs to be a little different. Good time to save. Command S. I'm making progress that I can see in my file, whether it's on the desktop or somewhere else, that it updates. Right there. Let me move that to the desktop while I'm working so I can see it update. Then I can limit this to just my inspiration shot. Okay, now I need to shrink this just a tiny bit. You can always go back and edit your previous vectors. And then that reveals more of that ear that I want. So if you use the Move tool with Auto Select Layer, you can select the shapes. And you can use your arrow keys if you don't want to drag and drop for kind of exact movements. All right, this is what I have so far. So there's kind of a blue haziness in the eyes. So I want to get behind the eyes. And your shape with the shape tool will make your shape layer on top of whatever layer you last selected. So now I'm behind the eye, so I don't have to move it. And I'm going to make a little oval right around it, and I'm going to make it blue. Nice light blue. And it's going to be hard-edged for now, because that's the limitations of the assignment. First, we just do clean, solid shape cutouts, just like the emoji maker kind of flat icon. But then we'll have the option to do different effects to it, and when I add the effects, I can soften that out. I also want to move it behind the nose. There we go. And now I'll duplicate it. I'll hit Control T, and I will flip it horizontally, and I'll move it over here. With just the tiniest bit of white showing on that inside edge. And then I want to make sure that that is behind the nose. And it is. So a shortcut for moving things behind and in is Command left bracket will move things down, Command right bracket will move things up. I think I want to make the nose a little bit bigger. Don't need a new ellipse. Control T. I'm just going to stretch it holding down Shift and Option so that it overlaps a little bit more, just like that. Okay, I'm going to take the little divot in the nose, I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to make it white. And this will be for the thing that splits his mouth, his maw, his muzzle in half. So it's going to go just right below it. And I'm not even sure it needs to be a different size. There's kind of a symmetry there. And now I'm going to use some new ovals. And I'm going to use a darker black than the head itself. So I'm going to go right to the darkest black in the far bottom left corner. And these are going to be for his cheeks. Control T, I can make them the size I want. And I can warp them